Hello everyone, my name is Technical Sergeant Brandy Blea and I will be providing the participation and points briefing today. So this is the overview of everything that we're going to be discussing. I'm going to go over the responsibilities both at the ARPC and unit level. We're going to go over the law, regulation, and policies, the anniversary date, point categories, the maximum points credible for retirement, satisfactory service, credible service, non-credible service. We're going to be discussing a PCARS printout. We're going to go over the common service history status codes. We're going to go over CMS incidents, PCARS, and just a few topics and trends. So the ARPC points branch responsibilities, we basically are responsible for building and maintaining service history and points for all Guard and Reserve members. We fix points for years prior to the current year. We manually update any distributed learning points, any non-paid points, and also any points that may have rejected out of the pay system for various reasons. We integrate counterpart service points and service history into Air Force records. We also support units and members with any anniversary date or PCARS or O4E questions. We're basically the subject matter experts for any point-related inquiries. At the unit level, you all are responsible for reviewing and updating members' points for the current anniversary year, and this includes the 60 days following their anniversary date. One thing that we see a lot is AGR Stat Tour members at the unit level, their points, they don't always update. And so if this is ever the case, we just ask that you reach out to ARPC PCARS via MIPERS, and we have a standard text with instructions on how to correct their records that we could forward you. We also encourage you to encourage your members to review their point history every month following drills and prior to changing components. That way everything is up to date before a bunch of time lapse and records have to be corrected after the fact. So these are the various law, regulations, and policies that govern our PCARS program. So there's a couple of changes. Probably the two biggest ones is that the ANGI 36-2001 and the DODI 1215.06 and the AFI 36-2254 Volume 1, they recently increased the number of authorized AFTPs from 48 to 72 per FY per member. And ATPs also increased from 30 to 36 per FY per member. Another change was the AFMAN 36-2136. So the AFMAN combined the last AFI versions 1, 2, and 3 into one AFMAN. So one of the changes was to the ECI points. So ECI points now will be divided by 4 instead of 3 per contact hour. So for each point, you have to do 4 hours of study hours to get 1 ECI credit point. So the anniversary date. What is the anniversary date? So it's basically the foundation for calculating retirement points and retirement eligibility. It's changed throughout the years how the anniversary date is calculated. But as of 1 October 1995, the anniversary date was established by the date the member entered into active service or active status in a reserve component. And this will include delayed entry. And it's only adjusted for breaks in service. So the anniversary date is established by the date you enter military service. We use the DD Form 4 as a reference. An anniversary year begins on one day of 1 year and ends on the preceding date of the next year. So for example, if the initial day of enlistment was 1 July 2019, then the R&R year would conclude on 30 June 2020. Point categories. So active duty equates to 1 point per day. Inactive duty for training equates to 1 point for every 4 hours worked. It cannot exceed 2 points per day. Funeral honors duty is credited with 1 point per day, and it can be formed in either IDT or active duty status. Distributed learning, it's also formally referred to as ECI. You receive 1 point for every 4 hours of distributed learning. Membership points, you earn 15 points credited, 15 points are credited for active reserve status membership per anniversary year, and it's prorated for partial years. So the maximum points creditable for retirement, so basically everything on this that we'll go over on this slide is for everything other than the active duty column on your PCARS cert. So the maximum inactive duty credit applies to a combination of IDTs plus any distributed learning points and plus your membership points. This equates to your max IDT credits. So it's changed throughout the years. But as of 30 October 2007, the max points credible for retirement is 130. A maximum of 365 points or 366 points in a leap year may be credited for each anniversary year. So I briefly discussed this in a previous slide. The DODI 1215.07 has changed recently. It's now 1 retirement point for each 4 hours of distributed learning. So this slide is satisfactory service. So a year of satisfactory federal service for retirement is awarded when a member earns at least 50 points for the entire R&R year. And this includes any membership points. You have to actually complete the entire calendar year. So if you separate a day before, you won't get a satisfactory year even though you have the max points for the year. A partial year of satisfactory federal service for retirement is awarded when a member earns a minimum number of required points during a partial R&R year. This only applies when a member ends their active commitment prior to their anniversary date. So there are 2 slides that I'll be going over, and the first slide is the number of points needed for a good partial year. So for instance, if you look at this calendar, if you work 0 to 8 days in an active duty status, you'll need at least 1 point in order to have a good year. For partial years, we always suggest to follow up with the retirement department with any questions or concerns that you have regarding any partial years. So this calendar basically goes on and it gives you a number of days to and from, and it equates to a minimum number of points that you need for a partial good year. So if you work 15 to 21 days in an active duty status, you'll need at least three points for a good partial year. So the second chart highlights the prorated membership points for partial years. So members need to have worked at least 13 days in an active status in order to receive 1 membership point for a partial year. So this is a list of all credible service components. So basically any points that are earned while in any of these categories would be included in your PCARS serve. Non-credible service. So this is a list of non-credible service. No points will be earned for any time spent in a non-credible status. We often get a question as to what exactly is retired reserve. So this is the period of time following your retirement, and you have your 20 satisfactory service years, but you're put into a retired reserve status, which pretty much means that you can be recalled. During this time, you're not considered a civilian, but you're not required to participate. It's basically a gray area between retiring up until you get paid at age 60. There's basically a special passcode that they put you in during this time. So this is a PCARS computer printout, and we're going to be going over basically the entire document section by section. So when you're looking at this document at the top left, the anniversary date is recorded in month date format. So looking at the record status section at the top right, you want to see an either 47 or a 44. If you see anything else in this section, something is wrong and it needs to be corrected. So for instance, if you see a 41, this basically means that the member's PCARS is incomplete. It's an incomplete PCARS data capture. If you see an 80, a record status 80 code, that means that there's a lost point state, which means no points are being recorded to the member's PCARS record. If you need assistance with any of these, you can always send ARPC PCARS and MyPERS Instant, and we can assist you with correcting the member's record. Basically, what you want to see is a 47 or a 44 in this section. So the next section is the TAFMs. So this is your total active federal military service. Your TAFMs will be displayed in year, month, day format. This basically highlights the total number of days spent in an active duty status throughout your career. The next section is the retirement points. Just below, I discussed max points in a previous slide. So whenever a member receives points over the 130 max, you'll see a difference between the total and the retirement columns. And if you look at this, the total, I believe, is 2,273, and the retirement points is 2,270, so there's a difference. So in this example, the total column has more points than the retirement column because at some point during one of the members' anniversary years, the maximum amount of points were received. So everything after the 130 maximum will not count towards your retirement points. This could be due to an IDT cap or a max year cap, or if you're an AGR on 365 orders and you complete ECI, the ECI won't count towards your anniversary year. We highly suggest that you encourage your members to review their PCARS summary. That way, if there is a difference between these two columns, remind them that at some point during their anniversary years, max points were reached, and any points over the max did not count towards their retirement. So just below that is the satisfactory service. This highlights the number of years of satisfactory service a member has completed throughout their entire military career. The service component codes, just below that, I will discuss them on the next slide. So towards the bottom of the form, you see the current R&R year points. So these are basically broken out in the from and to date format, and then it highlights the points and the type duty code. So basically, if you see any points with a type duty code 1 through 5, those are active duty points. If you see points for type duty code 6, that is an AFTP, which is an IDT. If you see type duty code 7, that is a paid IDT. Type duty code 8 is a non-paid IDT. And any type duty code 9s, those are distributed learning points. So just to the left, the year-by-year service history, this is basically a year-by-year service history, the member service history separated by their anniversary years. So these are the service history status codes that I was referring to on the previous slide. So these basically, these are primarily important for ARPC PCARS technicians to know. However, this could be nice for you in the field. These are various codes that you will see in the history status column on the PCARS computer printout. So in the previous slide example, the member basically had a history status code of FV, which they were prior Air Force Reserve or Guard, and they also had an XC line, which is a civilian break. So if you see XC or XT, XA, all of these are non-credible. So any time spent during those periods, there's no points being built towards your retirement. So the case management system, so at ARPC points management section, we process 2 CMS cases. The first one that I'm going to go through is the O4E CMS cases. So the over 4 enlisted qualifications, officers must be in grades 01 through 03, and they must accrue at least 1,461 retirement points as a warrant officer or an enlisted member prior to their commission date. So the over 4 enlisted pay and point adjustment process is basically the member's CSS or FSS would be responsible for submitting a CMS case to DFAS RC Indianapolis. They would need to upload a copy of the member's oath of office, which is the Air Force Form 133, and a copy of their GR Both CERF. It's a MilPDS product. Both of these documents would need to be uploaded to CMS, and it would need to be referred to DFAS RC Indianapolis initially. Once DFAS receives the CMS case, they will refer the CMS case to ARPC O4E for further action. And then once we receive the CMS case, we'll verify that the member did in fact accrue 1,461 retirement points prior to their commission date. And if so, we will update the O4E flag in MilPDS. Once we do that, we will refer the CMS case back to DFAS, and they will process the final pay record adjustment. So the second CMS cases that ARPC PCARS manages is the AFTP cases. So we ask that the units only submit an AFT CMS case after the members have already exhausted their initial 48 AFTPs. When you initiate the CMS case, the CMS cases are required to have a digitally signed copy of the member's DD Form 114, and we also need the DD Form 114 to list each period that was worked for every date listed. And say, for instance, if the member performed only one period on one specific date, I kindly ask that you specify if it was the AM or the PM period. That way there's no confusion as to which period the member worked, because when we input that information into MilPDS, we have to specify if it was for the AM or the PM period or both for every date listed. The DD Form 114s, they also need to be digitally signed. So if the documents are not digitally signed, we have to refer the CMS cases back to the point of origin and request that document. So the AFTP pay and point adjustment process is kind of similar to the O4E CMS case process. So the member's CSS or FSS would need to submit a CMS case. They would need to be routed again through DFAS RC Indianapolis initially. The DD Form 114 and the NGB 105S would need to be included for DFAS to process the pay on their end. DFAS RC will forward the CMS cases to ARPC PCARS, and we will process the members' points accordingly. Once we are done processing the members' points into MilPDS, we will refer the case back to the point of origin for case close actions. So some of the common CMS case issues that we see is a lot of the times the CMS cases are not routed properly through DFAS. We ask that all pay affecting CMS cases be routed through DFAS initially. If not, we have to refer the case back to the point of origin and ask for the proper routing. A lot of the times, I mentioned the documents are either not digitally signed or not uploaded at all. Sometimes the documents that are submitted are for another member entirely. And so we just ask that the proper routing is adhered to, the correct documentation is uploaded to the CMS case, and that it is in fact for the same person that the CMS case was initiated for. So BCMRs. So this slide I'll be going over the Board for Correction of Military Record process. So what we ask is that whenever you're submitting a BCMR, we ask that you first exhaust all other remedies first. Approximately 30% of the BCMRs that are submitted to ARPC PCARS are first-time attempts at resolutions. Errors can often be corrected administratively, and we ask that you contact Headquarters ARPC Points Management via MIPERS before submitting a BCMR. A BCMR is a last resort, and once a BCMR is initiated, ARPC PCARS is unable to assist until the BCMR is resolved. A few trends and topics that I want to discuss. The first one was an update to the AFMAN 36-2136. This is in regards to non-paid points. All non-paid points must be processed into UTAPs or by the Member Servicing Personnel Office within MilPDS no later than 2 months after the member's R&R closeout in order to be credited for satisfactory service. However, as long as a MIPERS incident is submitted prior to the member's anniversary closeout, ARPC PCARS will update. Another topic that we would like to discuss is the units providing their members with a copy of their final point summaries prior to separating or retiring, and we encourage you to inform your members that they should keep this document for life. We also ask that you please do not call or email ARPC Points Management technicians directly. Instead, we ask that you submit a MIPERS incident for additional assistance. Please ensure that the member or unit includes the contact information in the event that we need to reach out directly. There is a record check reminder that we would like to discuss. So there's an email that goes out basically roughly about 120 days prior to the anniversary date. So this message will not go out to people on active duty orders. So we just ask that you inform your members that if they are not receiving this reminder, to get with their servicing personnel office and verify the email address in MilPDS. Make sure that it is current because they should be receiving this record check reminder. We try to emphasize this as much as possible because when members don't check their points, they could potentially not be getting credit for duty that they have already performed.